Hi friends! Happy Valentine's Day, and I hope your creativity loves you back today, okay? I am here with you for my first ever collaboration in this whole YouTube space. Also, my first ever indie pattern, and the first of my Make 9 for 2022. It's like chock full of firsts. And I will let you stay tuned to the end to see if it was a success or not. All right, everyone. So welcome back to my channel. It's Saltwater here from Traditionally Inspired Meaningful Art. And today I have a wonderful video for you. The lovely Edele from Sew for Serenity and I have been working on a special Valentine's Day collaboration, and we got together to make, you guessed it, the Sicily Slip Dress by Sewing Patterns by Mason. This was on my Make 9. I wanted to experience making a bias cut dress, and the Sicily Slip Dress has just been all over the place and has just been talked about so highly that I had to give it a go for myself. Had some ups and downs, folks, okay? It's not gonna be like a very straightforward video in the slightest. But as I committed to this collaboration, we decided, I feel like I recommended, I was like, this would be great for Valentine's Day. So I said at the very beginning of February, which left 2 weeks, that's neither here nor there. I stand before you in a dress, and you will let me know in the comments down below whether you think it was a success or not, because I have some thoughts about it. Before we dive in, I want to talk to you a little bit about the dress itself. I'll let you know what I cut and how I got on with actually sewing it up and making it, because therein lies some of my troubles, okay? So the Sicily Slip Dress, again, is a pattern by Sewing Patterns by Mason. Hopefully you can see some of that. And it's gorgeous. So I had mine printed out in black and white. We're not going to waste colored ink for that. So very beautiful. It has this awesome like drapey cowl neck, these really thin straps. Again, it's fully cut on the bias. For the size chart, and here it is, I was a little bit all over the place for sizing. So to begin, the regular garment measurements in the size chart, if I were to go for a size B, that was 35 inches. So I figured, okay, I might be more of a size B in that. For the waist, I have about a 30-inch waist. So for me, I was thinking, okay, if I sized up to a 31, that would put me in the D range. And then for the hip, I have a 43-inch hip. So that put me again in a size E. So all over the place. But I remember watching Brittany J. Jones's pattern review of the Sicily Slip Dress, and she also often has to grade between sizes. And one of the things that she said was she tried doing that and grading between sizes, and then ultimately for the dress that I think she actually sewed up in the sewing sort of Sew With Me video that she put out, she ended up going for a straight size G or something like that. So that should have given me the indication that I should not have graded out. But I was so far in between sizes that I couldn't quite figure out where I would land. Like, would I do a size C all the way through or size D all the way through? Then when I looked at the finished garment measurements for this garment, they only give a finished garment measurement for the waist, which should have told me something. Maybe everything else doesn't matter as much. But for that, the finished garment measurements for a size C was a 35.5. So that would have been a lot of ease, but again, I was like, what would be kind of central? If I'm between a size B to a size E, maybe a size C would give me what I need. Ultimately, I ended up cutting out, oh, I can show you. So here is the pattern piece. I had mine printed at school in the photo lab, so the paper is really thick, so very, very thick. But I'm really, really grateful to my awesome coworkers. I was like, could I print this. I just need it really big. So this is what I have, and I'm keeping it forever. So I just outlined the largest size just so I can keep all of the sizes for this particular reason, because now I have to recut some sizes. But I ended up grading between a size C to a size D at the hip line, and I just used my French curve to kind of smooth out that curve. So here are the pattern pieces. I ended up tracing it on just craft paper. I see a redemption dress in my future because this dress is not going to win. No. I have to redeem myself, and I've already picked out the fabric that I want to do that with, but we'll get to that in a moment. As far as my first ever indie pattern and sewing with my first ever indie pattern, what I can say is these instructions by Sewing Patterns by Mason were incredible. I don't really fault the pattern for a lot of my mishaps. I blame midnight sewing. I blame not watching the sew along and just going with the instructions, which again, I think would have worked had it not been midnight. I remember Edele and I, as we were preparing for this, I was like sending her the sew along and the pattern review that Brittany J. Jones did. She had already seen it, so I was like, this is wonderful. And typically I would follow the sew along. I love that visual sort of companionship as I'm sewing. And for some reason, I was like, Fatmata, this entire thing has 4 pattern pieces. You got this. And usually maybe I would, but midnight me on fumes in the sewing process made some really faulty mistakes, which I'm going to remove this dress so I can show it to you because it's kind of incredible how I could have messed it up that bad. This dress is made out of a beautiful poly crepe fabric that I picked up at G Street Fabrics. And this is one of the few things that I actually picked up from like the floor of fabric that they have. I fell in love with this like almost pseudo like animal print. I love it. So here's the dress. I have a very like small bust. So this thing right here does not know what to do. It has no idea. I find that if I wear this dress with a belt, it is less awful. So I've been styling it with a belt. I have a lot of excess fabric in the back, which I will show you without the belt in just a moment. Yeah, this is the dress. So this is the dress on, and I just cut it too big. It's too big. And I think I need to either go back in and cut a straight size B or a straight size C and see what happens. I have a lot of extra fabric here, like a lot, all throughout, but particularly in the very back, so much like pooling of fabric. And I don't know how to like size it in so I don't have this. So anybody who's made this that can give me any tips, I'd love it. It's just a lot of pooling right there. I think even at the hips, I would have some give, right? So if I were to size down, this is currently at a D at the hip. So if this were a size C, maybe it'd be this small. If it were a B, maybe it'd be even tighter. So I don't know if a B would be too snug, not sure. But I have to figure something out with this whole thing. Even from the side, like the cowl neck portion, I don't know how it's supposed to sit. And I wonder, like, if I were not layering this, which I would always wear mine layered, I feel like this would be a lot on display. So I don't know. I'm unsure about what to do with this. I hope I'm not doing all of this to turn anyone off. Again, I've seen Edele's version and it's beautiful. And I've seen so many versions online, so I know this dress can be beautiful. I just did some things that didn't work. So I'm going to make a redemption dress mark my words. So watch this space, because either in a Friday sews that's upcoming or in my, of course, my February makes video, you'll see something that will allow me to retry this dress. So let me take this off so I can show you some of the inner details and where I think I might have gone wrong. All right, so if you're wondering, I am wearing something that I self-drafted back in 2020. It's just like really nice sweater knit fabric that I picked up in the dead stock fabric section at G Street Fabrics a couple of years ago. I love it. It's just nice to kind of toss over other things. Now, back to what I did with sewing the slip dress. Here's one of the biggest things that I realized I did wrong was how I actually sewed the top portion together. I was wearing this and thinking it's so bulky under the arms, or even as I was sewing it, I was like, why is it sewn this way? So anyone who's made this pattern is probably laughing, because you know that this is not correct. I sewed the inner facings into the French seam, like just sandwiched 4 layers of fabric together in a French seam. That is not what you were supposed to do. Now the issue was Midnight me could not quite understand the photo. Oh, here it is. Okay, so on page 14 of this, you see this image right here, how it has facing and then dress. Well, in my bright idea, I was like, I know that the white should mean that that is the right side of the fabric, and I couldn't quite understand how, or like what this was, if those dashed lines were just telling me that the facing was sitting on the inside. So I took that to mean that I was supposed to put all of that fabric together, and that the facing, that was just a dashed line to show me that the facing was inside and not that it was flat, right? Like the facing, then I have the seam where the facing and the dress meet, and then I have the rest of the dress, which is clearly what that photo shows. Midnight me could not quite comprehend. And instead of going to my trusty YouTube video that Brittany J. Jones so kindly shared with the rest of us, I was like, oh, I'm gonna figure this out. This seems really bulky, but that's fine. It wasn't fine. That was not correct. So I have a really bulky seam, and I will be unpicking or just cutting this out. Then I remember when I was piecing this together, I had so much extra fabric in the back dress piece, and I just couldn't quite understand what was happening, like when had all of this stretched out. So I thought, you know what I'm going to do, because I know I cut it out properly, I am just going to like forcefully ease all of that fabric back, and it'll be fine, right? Like it'll just be fine. It wasn't fine. It wasn't a good idea. I don't know if the alternative would have been better to just let it sort of hang at the bottom and cut off the excess, but I felt like if I cut it out properly, then they're supposed to fit. So if it's stretched out because I shifted it in some way through sewing or through moving the pieces around, then I mean, like what would be the better of those two options? I thought it would just figure itself out. So I eased all of that in, but what it creates, if you can see, hopefully it's demonstrating it here, it just creates like a ton of pooling of fabric. And I'll try and do a cutaway with it on the mannequin so you can kind of see what I mean. But it creates such a tremendous amount of pooling. It's puckering a little bit here, just creating these bobbles, and the seam doesn't lay flat. It's not good. It's just not good. Okay. And that is happening on the back. So all in all, I feel like I gave a new pattern a go. I think the pattern is beautiful, and I am looking forward to revisiting it. That's what I have to share. I'm either going to cut a size B straight, and I think it might be snug at the hips. While I understand the fabric being cut on the bias means that it'll stretch with you and all of that, I still want it to not feel like it's tight around the hip, but I think I really do need to go quite smaller for it to fit in the bust, for me not to have all that excess gaping at the waist as well. And I'm willing to give it a try. I don't know if I'm so gung-ho about this right now because I'll be honest, I'm feeling really defeated. And I don't know if this is a pattern that is like top of my list for immediate remake, or if this is something that I'll just have to show you guys in my February makes video, like later down the line. Maybe get a couple of sewing wins under my belt on some other things, and then come back to you with a Sicily slip dress. Either redoing this first one or just cutting out a redemption dress and starting from scratch. What I have selected as far as my redemption dress is this silk fabric from my stash. If you watched my Silk Sonic video when I went to G Street Fabrics and bought all the silk, this was in it. So it was $8.97 a yard, and it was 25% off of that. So really amazing prices, and it's this like lovely navy background with this orange, white, and red. And just from afar, it just looks really, really dreamy. It has awesome drape, and it's a bit lighter in the hand and more fluid than the poly crepe is that I first used. So I'm really excited to give it a go. That is my plan. I feel like this would be lovely on, because I know that for me, the Sicily slip dress is not something that I would ever wear on its own out. So I do have to be quite mindful about the types of fabric that I use. And because this has that navy in it, it has the white, it has this orange, the reds, and all of that, I could easily pair it with this turtleneck. I could pair it with like a white button-up shirt under it. There are many things that I think could go with this. And that's important to me when selecting a fabric that I would want to make something like this out of, that has spaghetti straps that I would layer. So that's why this initial fabric with all of these gorgeous colors in it made sense to me. And as I was looking through my stash to figure out what to make my redemption dress out of, I just don't love it enough to commit. You all are gonna get sick of seeing this fabric, and I need to just make it up into something. But this gorgeous like large floral print fabric that I also picked up at G Street a while ago. This could have been a Sicily slip dress if I loved it, but I have to make sure I love it, and I'm not at that stage yet. But while I do still like and love this silk, I'm willing to volunteer it as tribute to try this out again. So we shall see. But what do you think? I think this would be a lovely slip dress. It would be fabulous. Is that all I'm supposed to say in a pattern collaboration? Not with the mannequin looking better in this dress than I do. That's not nice. But this is here is the dress, and I have some work to do on it. That's the long and short of it, but I think it's worth it for me to give this dress another go, because I think it could lead to some really beautiful makes. Not that I think I'm gonna have a ton of slip dresses in my future. My goal is not always to make things that often have to be worn with other things, particularly dresses. So I think a couple of these, maybe one or two more like in this year or so might happen, but for sure a redemption dress. And then if I think that it could kind of be more wearable in my day-to-day wardrobe, then I might consider another one. But it is lovely here on her. I am going to include some images and some footage of Edele's dress. I think it turned out beautifully. I love the like beautiful burgundy rich red color that she used in her dress. Really perfect for Valentine's Day. And I would love for you all to go over to her channel, watch her video, see how she got on with making this dress, and hear about her experience. I think that's the magic and the beauty of this entire collaboration, is just seeing the various ways that we got on with making the same pattern. And I hope that you will subscribe to her channel as well and give us some positive feedback, hopefully. As this was my first collaboration, I learned a couple of things and I just want to share them. I know that I'm going to give myself more lead time coming up to a collaboration. I think it's different than the individual videos that I put out, because you're working with someone else. You want to make sure that they have what they need from you, and you all can coordinate as far as timing and posting and all of that. And I just was so excited. It's a slip dress, and it just felt so perfect for Valentine's Day. But in hindsight, a bit more time probably would have been helpful for me to get through like a proper toiling stage and then actually have a solid final make if I needed to make alterations. I think the pattern just seemed so simple and, you know, promising, that I didn't really assume that I would have a lot of issues with it. And probably had I taken a bit more time and not have been sewing as late as I was, it probably would have been a bit more promising. So that's going to be something that I take on into future collaborations. But it was important for me, even though I don't feel like this dress is perfect right now, to just show up and kind of share that. I had some really awesome makes last month, and such is the process, right? You can have some awesome ones, and maybe some others might not turn out exactly how you thought that they would. But there is a lot of potential in this pattern, so I am not giving up. So if you've ever made the Sicily slip dress, please leave a thumbs up, give me some positive vibes in the comments. Let me know that it is not worth giving up on, hopefully. And if you've never made it and are considering a slip dress, I really do think that you should consider this. My errors, or the things that I'm working on, really I do think were user error. And actually, I think Tamlin from Sewn on the Time and Jess from So What If I Sew are currently doing a collaboration where they are going to be reviewing the Saltwater slip dress from Friday Pattern Company and the Sicily slip dress from Sewing Patterns by Mason. And that, I think, the reveals should be airing at the end of this month. So that's another great way for you to see two different slip dress patterns together and sort of how they got on with those. So I would highly recommend that as well. And I'll link, I think they have already posted their like plans videos, so I'll link that down below. Click on Edele's video. It's in the description box. I hope that you enjoy her channel as well. Thank you all so much for those of you who are sticking with me and are tuning in week after week. I so appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. Stay creative, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.